different. And then there are those manned by the police. They are setting fire on tires. I think we shall call for calm, but I think there needs to be restraint from the forces also. There's need to be restrained, like we have stated, such that we don't degenerate the level. I was shocked to see yesterday on the TV one of the guys who had been shot, and they were trying to carry him to hospital, but instead he was not bothered. He said, no, my sister, I'd rather die if this can make a better life for you. He was not bothered, and he was bleeding. So if we push Ugandans to that level, then we shall generate a level of almost domestic terrorism, which can be very dangerous for this country. I think we must come in together at this moment, the Electoral Commission, the government, the candidates, and let this must stop. We had Madam Speaker, and you were in this house when Madam Speaker, when some of us and a number of Ugandans were proposing that can we postpone elections, because the excitement that politics, that campaign brings, sometimes is very difficult to control people. But we were defeated. Now you can now see, if you don't have heavy escort, you have been going to the village, I go to the village. You go to meet people just farm you. You can't manage. It's only those who have enough security who can be able to farm people away. And colleagues here can bear witness. I see Honorable Bahati here because he experienced the same thing when he goes to Darwa. All of us have seen this. We cannot enforce. You cannot even stop people unless you have a bodyguard security like the president or like the army commander has. That's the only way you can be able to stop people from advancing to you. So how do we manage in this situation? I think the time now is for us to come down. Either government comes and says, no, we must save the lives of people, because when people see people in a window, it's a different case. Either we say, stop campaigns, wait until on the 14th and we vote, or still cancel the election, or cancel the elections, because if the conditions that way, we are going to see a number of colleagues, the presidential candidates were arrested. Others have stopped campaigning. Honorable Muntu, Honorable Tumukunde, even in Toroko, where there were just few people, you find the soldiers stopping. Who is giving these directions to stop other presidential candidates, even where there are no crowds? So, Madam Speaker, I think we call on government to sit with the political actors and have a very harmonious way of handling the things. Otherwise, we are going to lose more people, like we have already lost. We have already lost 4 people, and today you never know what has happened. People cannot access town easily. People have to now, even those who have not been carrying anything red, you have to carry St. Thomas poster in the car in order to survive, or the red cape. Government vehicles, people cannot drive because they have been damaged. So, Madam Speaker, we want to call upon the security officers, and the government is supposed to be in charge, to reign over these matters, and let us have, if we are to continue to have elections, let us have the peaceful elections, have a harmonized way, a way of campaigning. Or we even leave it now and say, suspend campaigns until 1st or 2nd of January, then we campaign for 2 weeks, and people vote, because there is also a risk of COVID, because you have seen how we have lost colleagues, and definitely more we shall lose more people, not only members of parliament, because now we are all mixing. The presidential candidates are all moving all over the country, spreading COVID, even to the areas they have not reached. So come mid-December, you will see a different matter. So in the interest of saving lives, we can even say suspend the campaigns, and we do campaigns for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then we vote. So, Madam Speaker, yes, thank you. Okay.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank my senior colleague talking about campaigns. You know, if you look at the statistics in the U.S., before the presidential candidates that time started campaigns, the infection rate was low. But when the U.S. president went full blast, as we talk now, every day over 120 or 20,000 and so onwards, but the ones were being infected every other time. Those are the ones that have suffered. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to say what the Honorable Cooper is saying is that we need, as a country, that matter was raised here, and some members were ignored. But the fact is that, as he's talking about, the projection will be dangerous. Remember, over 145 have died. Number two, the infection rate is going to increase, like it is happening in the US because of the presidential elections right the other side. That's why there must be a solution to this problem as we go. I thank you so much. That's the information I want to give you.
Yeah, thank you. So, Madam Speaker, that's on something regarding health and life. If we are saying, because this morning we are raising the issue of masks. It's half of the country that has masks. So how do you expect candidates to go and converse for votes and meet people when they don't have masks? We provided for the money. So something must be done. Right, Madam Speaker.
No, Sir Bagara, very quickly. Oh, but now if we have that debate, I don't know whether we shall do work. You know, Okay. 2 minutes each. Sir Bagara, Onyango. No, I've questioned my list.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the situation is really worse. And Madam Speaker, I don't know, because right now, the information that we are being given by police, that so far 4 people were killed yesterday. To me, Madam Speaker, we need to investigate, because we are hearing information from various parts of this country that there were people who were killed in Masaka, in Jinja, in various parts of the country, in Kampala here. Even a young boy of 15 years old was killed in Kalerwe. He went to buy a car. As he was going back to home, he was killed and is being buried today in Gayaza. Madam Speaker, I know that the numbers that were killed yesterday are more than what the police is telling us. Madam Speaker, I believe the Electoral Commission should really have control, because you have the candidates who are moving around the country, and it is your mandate to guide, because now they have left the control of the electoral process to the security operatives. Madam Speaker, that is really the cause of what is going on. Madam Speaker, unless we demand for the release of Honorable Chagwan Sentamu and those who have been arrested, Madam Speaker, the situation is not going to be really stable unless there is justice to all sides. And this is why I appeal to all religious leaders, especially through their inter-religious council. Please, this is the time that we expect all religious leaders to come out, to condemn, to come out to guide, to come out and also ensure that this political process is guided, and also we pray to the Almighty God that we have a successful elections. And otherwise, we are as if we are in war. Look at the city right now, Madam Speaker. Many people have already closed the shops. At banks closed at 2 p.m. Most of the banks closed today at 2 p.m., Madam Speaker. Simply because they fear of their life. Madam Speaker, unless the government cools down and calms down, unless there's justice within the Electoral Commission, unless these candidates are given ample time and are given equal opportunities, we are seeing elections that are only in favor of Mr. President Museveni, not other candidates. Yet all these are candidates who are vying for one position, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Let me, before I invite Honorable Onyango, honourable members, something bothered me. Yesterday I was reading that at least 4 candidates collided in the same districts. 2 candidates collided in one district, another 2 collided in another district. I thought that the Electoral Commission had sat and harmonized the programs. How can candidates be in the same district at the same time on the same day? I think there's something not working well. Honorable Onyango.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Madam Speaker, the situation in this country is becoming quite absurd. But what is worrying me most, Madam Speaker, is the conduct of the demonstrations. Right now, it is becoming hard to differentiate between the demonstrators and the security operatives. Yesterday, Madam Speaker, on my way from town, to my place of residence in Mukono, I encountered 4 roadblocks. 2 of them were purely for police, because they were in uniform and you would identify the security forces. The other 2 were having people in non-uniform clothes, and very violent, Right Honorable Speaker. They don't care who you are, and they're actually having even intentions of robbing. Madam Speaker, I think government needs to really take up this matter and take charge. The situation right now is really alarming in the whole country. It is not only Kampala, Madam Speaker. In Busia, I wasn't there yesterday, but the situation was tense. Mukono was tense. And Madam Speaker, as representatives of the people, we really need to also question this. Why does security take law at its hands and shoot local people? Like, I want to give an example, right on the person who was killed in Mukono yesterday. The young man was, you know, these people who ran up and down, not that he was doing something violent or trying to attack a security personnel, but he was simply shot. I would think, Right Honorable Speaker, that you need to really direct government to have a statement on this matter. Citizens cannot just continue dying, losing their lives, when we have a democratic government. President Museveni was voted by the people. He is in power until May, when we shall be having a new president being sworn in. He is still the commander-in-chief. Why should we have a scenario where local people, local citizens are being shot? Leave alone the blasting of tear gas, but live bullets. Madam Speaker, yesterday Kampala was terrible. Mukono was terrible. Jinja was terrible. Busia was terrible. Masaka was terrible. Every town in this country was almost on fire. And live bullets. Madam Speaker, I would like to move a suggestion that let government have a say on this matter. Otherwise, by the time we shall have elections in January, we shall have lost thousands of people if things continue to move at this pace. And lastly, Madam Speaker, we need to be realistic to ourselves as a country. We cannot say that we are guarding the public against infections when we are actually the ones almost promoting it. Madam Speaker, 2 weeks ago,
please conclude.
Let me conclude, Madam Speaker. 2 weeks ago, a number of restrictions were lifted by the Minister of Health. And some of the restrictions that were lifted include opening of mobile markets. Madam Speaker, if you can lift a ban on a mobile market, on Tuesday in Mukono we had a mobile market. And there was traffic from morning up to late in the evening. Thousands of people. You know how mobile markets are conducted. Thousands of people. But now here, when it comes to a political rally, you are saying only 200 people. I really don't understand the rationale. And Madam Speaker, as the voice of the people in this country, we need to caution and find out why is government moving in such an orderly manner. We need, I think, we need these questions to be answered, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
On our membership, quickly, Kivalia Senyonga, and then we need to go to other work on the order paper.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, you have just alluded to the guidelines by the Electoral Commission pertaining candidates not clashing in campaign venues. But recently, in the campaign trail of the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in Tororo on Tuesday, I witnessed very close to where we had been allocated the campaign venue. Mr. Tango Doi, the chairperson of NRM Electoral Commission, was also addressing a mammoth crowd, just very close of understand campaigning for candidate Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, very close to where we were in Tororo. And I wondered why he had to be there in advance in order to block our candidate from launching his campaign in Tororo in that place. Madam Speaker, what also perturbs me are the irregularities by the security forces. The security personnel that are deployed to arrest, like even in Luka, arrest the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, anti-terrorism police. So I wonder whether Robert Kyagulanyi has turned into a terrorist so that they deploy anti-terrorist police to arrest him. And moreover, if you subject the actions to scrutiny, they are the ones who are perpetrating terrorism, the acts of maiming, killing. You have just the reports from newspapers are mentioning 4 people here. But in Mbale, we lost 5 on Sunday. I actually attended the burial on Monday of one of the victims that was hit by a fast-running police, deliberately hit by the police patrol vehicle, and he died instantly. So, Madam Speaker, I've heard from the spokesperson of police that they are now holding whoever commits any crime among the forces culpable, personally culpable. And I wonder whether surely this is walking the talk, because recently the DPC in Mitiana who committed all those terrorist acts upon the people who are cultural leaders, his services were merely transferred to another district in western Uganda, in Bunyoro. Actually, thanks to the kingdom there that he had to resist and send him back. But the truth of the matter is that the police are the ones perpetrating these terrorist acts, and they are going unpunished. Something must be done, at least a resolution by this House, to ensure that these perpetrators of terrorist acts do not go unpunished. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, this one. Honorable Kibalia. But let's just use 3 minutes each, please, and then Senyonga. We have not even touched the other matters on the order paper.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, you are the custodian of the Constitution and the laws that govern this country. Right Honourable Speaker, if we leave the country to move the way we are moving now, we are heading somewhere where we shall regret heavily. Right Honourable Speaker, we have left everybody to come on the radio and say, now we are going to run elections like this. Yesterday, police was also giving its own guidelines. Now they are going to set their own rules and laws. The other day, the chairman Electoral Commission were talking of 70. The Minister of Health came up with the 200. I think tomorrow, Father Lokodo will also come back and use the ethics line and say we can now seat 500, so that we move in that line, Right Honourable Speaker. We can't move like that, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the area where I come from, when you produce twins, you choose the direction of how to celebrate. Either you celebrate traditionally or go to church. The moment you accept to use the traditional means, then you will come whatever formula and words that will come in. If you don't want, then you go church. Right Honourable Speaker, we were here and said if we have to go for elections, then let the elections be the way they are run. Right Honourable Speaker, a situation where I'm not advocating for Honourable Kyagulanyi, but Right Honourable Speaker, in Ruuka, the organizers of the function for Honourable Kyagulanyi set up tents days before. They organized when the whole security was watching. Even people converged one by one. How do you wait for the candidate to arrive and you begin shooting people like that? Right, Honorable Speaker, this didn't only happen to Honorable Chagulanyi. It's going to happen to most of us here, because according to what we heard the police saying, that they are going to tighten and do their own things. We can't move like that, Right, Honorable Speaker. I request, Right, Honorable Speaker, that you hold a meeting with either the Electoral Commission or whoever is concerned. Otherwise, tomorrow you are going to see more dead bodies. Yesterday, Right, Honorable Speaker, I was about to be a victim. My madam was driving my vehicle that has my stickers, Amane Naremu Flaga Bear. When they reached Chireka, it was a disaster. She was only lucky that as she reached, there were some people that saw the pots and knew Chibala, and the mob came and only protected the vehicle and protected her. They fought until security came and saved her. She would be dead. So we can't move like this. If we have to go for elections, Right, Honorable Speaker, to look for votes, let everybody look for votes the way he feels he can get votes. If the president feels he can get votes by sitting in tents, let him sit in tents. If we feel by looking for these that support us and give us votes, let us look for them. We know the environment. We opened elections in the environment of COVID. COVID didn't find elections.
Senyonga, quickly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues. Right, Honorable Speaker, the arrest of Honorable Chagulanyi Sentamu that happened on Wednesday could be avoided if our security really are sensitive and they can also sense danger and find a better way of maybe dispersing the crowd or talking to the presidential candidate. But it seems there is also connivance, Right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, in the police. Because in several meetings, Right, Honorable Speaker, I have seen they have to wait for you to gather, and then police comes after an hour, as if they don't have ears on the ground. Second, Right, Honorable Speaker, the Electoral Commission should also be a bit more serious and come out clearly. Right, Honorable Speaker, all of us are candidates in various positions. For you, you don't make rallies, no convoy. But you can see other people coming up with convoys, but they always say, it is not our duty as the Electoral Commission, it is the duty of police to control. So, really, who is to control who? Right, Honorable Speaker, if we are to have really stable and fair elections, the Electoral Commission should come out clearly. They can give us 2 days or 3 days break, and they say all candidates stop, and then they reorganize seriously. Because right now they are not really in control. Right, Honorable Speaker, when you see rallies for members of parliament, they are not in conformity with the SOBs. Not in conformity at all. So what is happening? Should we all go for rallies? Definitely. And now when you look at the riots, Right, Honorable Speaker, okay, there is a problem. But you mean the police cannot control without firing bullets? If they are seen on the ground are enough, they can control. But it seems even the police is benefiting out of this. Maybe they are given extra funding, and they say they just have this continue. When Ugandans are suffering, there are so many business people who are now totally suffering, Right, Honorable Speaker. I came from Mukono. For me, good enough. All of those guys know me. They could not stop me. I was just waving. But others whom they don't know were suffering. They are making roadblocks. So are we going to continue like this? Or we cannot deploy security as we talk to the Electoral Commission to solve the problem? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister is not here, but I hope the senior ministers have heard. There is grave concern about what is happening in the country, and it seems there is no central management of the process. The police are doing their things, the candidates are doing their things, the supporters are doing their things, the Electoral Commission is asleep. And so now there was some matters of national importance. Ona Macho.
Madam Speaker, allow me to tell my colleagues that, praise God, I'm still breathing. Madam Speaker, as I'm still breathing, on Sunday, 16th November, my beloved bodyguard, Private Ivan Kakai from Namsendwa, was killed in the morning at 10:47 a.m. at a church compound in Sophia Village, Eastern Division, in Busia Municipality, at Divine Deliverance Healing Center Church. Madam Speaker, by surprise, a UPDF officer who was keeping me was killed by Assistant Superintendent of Police, Patrick Javulu, the head of Flying Squad in Busia, and the Corporal Hucholangai, the head of Crime Intelligence. Right Honorable Speaker and my colleagues, I'm told when I was in church, because when I left the vehicle, I entered the church. After 6 minutes, I had bullets shot out, and immediately my bodyguard passed running by the church bleeding, followed with the head of Flying Squad, who was putting on a black jacket. At the end of the church was a fence. When my bodyguard hit on the fence, this officer went and shot him while he's looking at him pleading for justice. Right Honorable Speaker, the informers who were near tell me there were 5 men. But 4 days before that, Right Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, we were being trailed by some people who looked before the borders. There were 2 for almost all the evenings and the days. Good enough, I had a lot of trust in my bodyguard. By surprise, that on the scene where my bodyguard was killed, the gentleman, a crime preventer, and informer of the police, Abraham, was arrested as being the person who had been trailing us throughout. But shockingly enough, when I ran to complain to the nearest police station, which was almost 200 meters, all the policemen ran away from me. Little did I know that they were hiding the killers of my bodyguard. Then later I ran to the major central police station where I got the DPC of Busia in Moses. We ran back after 20 minutes on the scene where my bodyguard had been killed, and he discovered that the people who killed were his men. During the interrogation between me, the RPC, and the DPC, I was shocked when the DPC said that he's the one who commanded the operation, thinking that my car was being owned by the robbers, the car of the Member of Parliament, to be owned by the robbers. My question was, why didn't you summon me? Up to now, I have no answers to be told. But Madam Speaker, out of the 5 people, 3 have been arrested. We have 2 at large who are still missing, and they are all officers of crime intelligence. But shockingly, as I talk now, I have no security at all. I have to, for a night, I move in almost 3 guest houses, all lodges sleeping, to look for the safety of my life. Government knows that my life is in danger. I've written a letter to the IGP, but up to now, as I talk, no action has been taken at all. Madam Speaker, I pray that in case it is not intentional target on me, because the chair I left where I was sitting is where my bodyguard went and sat and was killed. In case it is not intentional killing, I don't know why up to now, I who lost a bodyguard who had sat on my chair, government has refused to deploy the bodyguard to keep me, has refused to deploy a bodyguard to keep my family. The police force has refused to make a statement on the death of my bodyguard, who is a UPDF officer up to now. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I pray that I'm helped with Parliament to have safety for myself and my family and my people of Busia, because the death of my bodyguard has brought fear in Busia town and has brought fear to me as a person. I therefore have the last prayer, request the House to pray for me, and also, Madam Speaker, request you to direct the IGP to immediately give me security as a senior citizen of this country and as somebody who was a target for murder or for political assassination. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. But, Right Honorable Speaker, as I finish that, truly speaking, Uganda is on fire and something must be done. If the chairperson of Electoral Commission and the IGP and candidates meet in the same boardroom, they will fight. Because everybody is speaking his own words. Me, I believe the promotion of pure democracy in this country is to allow free participation of everybody. And if police finds it better, let them exchange spokespersons. Let Mr. Bukenya, the spokesperson of Electoral Commission, be the spokesperson of police, and let Afande Nanga take over as the spokesperson of Electoral Commission, because they are contradicting themselves and causing confusion in this country, leading to the death of many people, and all this is bringing a shame, and all this is bringing reduction of support of my party NRM, because they think the police is doing it intentionally to make sure that my flag bearer, his support reduces in all the parts of the country. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Honourable members, I think the issues raised by Honourable Macho are extremely serious. The Minister of Internal Affairs is directed to urgently examine the situation in Busia. First, to ensure that the Honourable Macho has, or the Minister of Finance, okay.
Madam Speaker and the colleagues, condolences to our colleague for having lost a relative and having suffered inconvenience without the state coming in quickly. I would like to commit myself that as a senior minister in this government, this matter, I will take it to the highest level possible to ensure you get the protection that you are asking for.
Also urge you to ensure that those who perpetrated this death in broad daylight should be apprehended and charged. It was broad daylight, 10 o'clock in the morning, and apparently they are known. And now their life is okay, and something has to happen, Minister of Finance, really. So we expect to hear from you, one, on the protection of the Honourable Macho, but also a follow-up on the case. Follow-up on that case. Because if nothing happens, they'll shoot another person and life will continue. Okay, let's go to Honourable Asmani.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I rise on a matter of national importance regarding the violation of the rights of one of our colleagues, who is also a presidential candidate, the Honourable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Right Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Ssentamu Kyagulanyi was arrested from Luuka and driven to Nalfenya yesterday. Right Honourable Speaker, since yesterday, the police have denied the lawyers, the doctors, and family access to him. Right Honourable Speaker, this morning I was in Nalfenya. I rang everybody I know in police, and they said they have instructions not to allow anybody to see the Honourable Kyagulanyi. And Right Honourable Speaker, accessibility to a suspect is a basic human right enshrined in our constitution, which should not be negotiated. Right Honourable Speaker, since his arrest, the Honourable Kyagulanyi has not had the opportunity to have any meal, because even the food that we took since yesterday, we have not been given an opportunity to avail it to him. Right Honourable Speaker, it is my humble prayer that the Minister for Internal Affairs explains the illegal directives that police is using to ensure that suspects are denied basic rights. And Right Honourable Speaker, that is not only limited to him. Yesterday, early this morning, another colleague of ours, the Honourable Matthias Impuga, was arrested at 1 a.m. in the morning. Security forces broke his gate, tear gassed his house. He was picked, and as we speak now, is in detention. His rights have also equally been violated by security agencies. And right, Honourable Speaker, these are basic rights. Well, police has a right to arrest, but when somebody has been arrested, there are constitutional rights that they must enjoy. And those rights, right, Honourable Speaker, must never be violated. The Minister for Internal Affairs should explain who is giving these illegal orders, who is giving these illegal directives of denying people who have been arrested access to their lawyers, their doctors, their family members, and food. Is there an intention to have them die because of hunger? Are there motives that we don't understand? Finally, right, Honourable Speaker, there is a very big dilemma we are facing in the country with regard to these directives of COVID. It seems COVID is only transmitted through political meetings. With due respect, right, Honourable and my brother, the Honourable Latif Sebagala, is here. We did attend the burial of the late mayor of Kampala. We were there in thousands, including two deputy prime ministers at the burial, in thousands. There was no problem, and that function was being manned by security. When it comes to political meetings, we are told we should be 200. Honourable Speaker, how do we explain that to the ordinary wananchi? How do we explain that? In Kamuli, at the burial of our colleague, people were in thousands. We did bury the late Dr. Sheikh Anas Kalisa in Intungamo. People were in thousands. I attended the burial of Senior Counsel Shaban Muzilasa in Bugweri. People were in thousands. Now, when it comes to political meetings, it is only the limitation where it applies of 200. How are we going to explain this scenario to the wananchi? Right, Honourable Speaker, we need to reiterate the point we made here before. Either we have no more elections or we have no elections. There has not been any country that has held elections in this COVID era, and there has been these limitations we are seeing here because it's not practical. We are seeing double standards. As we speak now, Honourable Speaker, there are NRM processions. The opposition cannot have processions, and the police is looking on. Honourable Speaker, we cannot live in a country of double standards. I think as Parliament, we have to pronounce ourselves on this matter, on the issue of the standards. I think it is high time as a country we open up. Let's have no more election as we emphasize SOPs, as we emphasize social distancing, but the idea of limiting public meetings, public political meetings to the numbers of 200, Honourable Speaker, has not worked anywhere in the world, will not work, and it will even present operational difficulties to the security agencies. I beg to pray. Honourable Speaker, we therefore, in light of that, we demand the unconditional release of the Honourable Robert Kyagulanyi for the violation of his rights, the unconditional release of the Honourable Mathias Impuga. There is absolutely no justification whatsoever for their continued illegal detention.
Honourable members, I hope that the senior minister here has heard what is happening in the country, but I just want to reiterate that the COVID situation should not be used to violate the human rights of the people of Uganda, and is being used in some instances to do so. This is not right, Minister of Finance. So the members who are incarcerated should be given access to their food, to their lawyers, and to their family, because it is a basic right. It's not for negotiation. Okay, item 3.
Item 3 on the order paper, bills first reading. The Leadership Code Amendment Bill 2020.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, I beg to move that the bill entitled the Leadership Code Amendment Bill 2020 be read for the first time. I beg to move.
Is it is it seconded? Okay, seconded.
May I also lay on table the certificate of financial implications for the same?
Honourable members, the bill is sent to the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs for perusal and report back. Thank you. Item 4.
Item 4 on the order paper, statements by ministers. 4.1 on the delays by government to release funds appropriated for political parties with representation in Parliament.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker and colleagues, this money for political parties was passed on to the Electoral Commission, and I'm reliably informed the parties have received what is entitled to them. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Basadura.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, when I raised this matter, I was talking about the delay of the release of the money. Right Honourable Speaker, could the Minister kindly clarify to this House how much was budgeted for to be given to the political parties and how much was actually released? Because Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister, if he does not state how much was budgeted for and how much has been released, then the picture will not come out clearly. We need to know how much was budgeted for and how much was released. And also, relatedly, was the issue of the instruction you gave, Honourable Minister, instructing the Electoral Commission to distribute this money on numerical strength as opposed to the provisions of the law that called for equity in electoral time. And that is information that the chairman of the Electoral Commission gave me in my capacity as chairman of IPOD, that you gave this money with conditions that it should be distributed on the basis of numerical strength, and yet this is an election year. We should have distributed that money equally as per the provisions of the law. Just clarify on those two issues through you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Yes. Minister of Finance. First on the delay and then the actual disbursement.
Madam Speaker, according to the information we have, this House appropriated 20 billion and we have so far released 15 billion to the Electoral Commission. Regarding the law, on the second cross-checking, the honourable member of Jema, I think, was right to say that according to the law, this money should have been distributed equally in the year of election. So we expect that the Electoral Commission should comply with the law. Our part was to release the money, and if the conditions that we put on the release was contrary to the law, actually the Electoral Commission has a duty to comply with the law. But we have so far released 15 billion out of the 20 billion, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Now, members, let us. IPOD still has a problem?
Right Honourable Speaker, we should not allow the Minister to go away with that statement. One, on the issue of the remittance, because Right Honourable Speaker, we are talking about the delay. This is the time political parties need this money most, not another time. So if you are talking about the additional 5 billion, when is it coming? Number two, Right Honourable Speaker, the duty of the Electoral Commission is merely a custodian. It is a depository, it's a registry. The responsibility to ensure that we get that money equally is a responsibility of the ministry under the law. The Electoral Commission are merely, holders, but the decision on the distribution is yours, Right Honourable Minister. So, we want to find out, because I raised this matter the other time, and you said you know what to do if you want more money. When I was complaining how you had given JEMA only 40 million, and you took it to yourselves 12 billion. And you said increase your numbers. I was not talking about increasing numbers. I was talking about the law. Because when the law was being enacted, I was not here. So I was talking about implementation of the law. Right, the Honourable Minister, my good friend, the Honourable Bahati, when is the 5 billion coming? And give assurance, through you, Right Honourable Speaker, you should give assurance on the floor that when the 5 billion comes, it will be distributed equally as per the provisions of the law, and what you are going to do to correct the mistake that was made last time, because I forewarned you. I did forewarn government. When I was talking about this matter, it was ignored, and the Electoral Commission is saying it is actually you, the ministry, that gave the condition that it should be distributed on the basis of numerical strength. What are you going to do with the Auditor General? Because the law talks about this money being subject to the Auditor General. What are we going to do about that? How are you going to compensate JEMA for that loss and the other parties? What are we going to do? Because this is taxpayers' money appropriated by Parliament. You arrogated unto yourselves authority to distribute it on the basis of the numerical strength to the disadvantage of the other political players and political parties. How are you going to atone for that mistake? If we raise the legal challenge, how are you going to defend it? So I think that is the bigger issue, Right Honourable Speaker, that we should be addressing.
Okay, the Minister, I think at our next convenience sitting, you should come with a response to this issue.
Madam Speaker, the member is very right. Because we should do things according to the law. What does the law say? So, Madam, I want to promise this House that I will go and dig up all the details, give them the details, because I don't have the details right up on my things. Then we shall issue a statement to this House, and subject to your approval, Madam, if you wanted, I could even put this statement in the press for everybody to see, but that would depend on what instruction you give, Madam. If you want me to come back here, I will come back here. If you want it quicker than when we convene again, we should put that statement in the press so that everybody knows exactly what took place.
Okay. 4.2, Clerk.
Item 4.2, statement on the alleged malified and irrational quarantine for foot and mouth disease for 15 years in East Singiro District.
Minister of Agriculture? Not here. Item 5.
Item 5, presentation of a petition on exorbitant prices of digital stamps on alcoholic drinks by Uganda Alcohol Industry Association.
No, Onyango.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. This petition is moved under Rule 30 of our Rules of Procedure. Your petitioners are members of Uganda Alcohol Industry Association, bringing to your attention the exorbitant prices that is being charged by URA through CISPA on their alcohol products. Madam Speaker, the challenge here is that as compared to prices of digital stamps in other East African countries, what is charged in Uganda and by CISPA in particular is too high, and it makes production, the cost of production too high, and it makes them to charge their final product highly as compared to the market prices in East Africa.
But go to the prayers. Go prayers.
Prayers that Parliament resolves and urges government that the prices for digital stamps on alcohol is revised by reduction from 185 shillings that is currently being charged to 55 shillings that is being charged on beer, such that the prices are harmonized. Yeah, the prayer is only one, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Honourable members, the petition is sent to the Committee of Trade and Industry.
Madam Speaker, I just want some clarification. And good enough, the two honorable ministers of finance are here. Madam Speaker, last financial year, the same matter came to this house, and it was referred to the Committee of Finance and Planning. What happened? Because I remember contributing on the same matter, because they had even, I think they must have done some benchmarking on this issue of the digital stamps, because the alcohol drinks, I remember Uganda Brewers came here. I remember attending a meeting of that nature with the Committee of Finance. I thought that matter had been resolved, or the Committee of Finance did not complete the report, because they're supposed to have done benchmarking in the neighboring countries, because these were the same arguments that were brought by the companies. Because as of now, I think there are 187 countries, 187 industries, alcohol industries, that are registered. If I read there's a new bulletin which was just issued by the Commissioner General of URA, some things I'm just reading it online, who have complied, there are 187. So what could have happened to that, because it was a petition also, because I thought it had been concluded, because they did the comparison, benchmarking, and harmonized, because those were the issues that were raised by, again, these brewing industries. I just needed some clarification on that. Otherwise, we are going to send the same thing to the same committee which either did or has not done any work to it. Because we already went ahead and continued charging. And possibly what could be possible now is to look at in the next financial year. But what did our committee find out for now?
Honourable members, I will ask the clerk to cross-check on the outcome of the first petition. But in the meantime, we'll send this to the Committee on Trade and Industry for perusal and report back. And if we find that the matters are the same, they should be consolidated and considered by one committee. The clerk should give us a brief at the next sitting. Item 6.
Item 6 on the order paper, laying of papers in accordance with Rule 31 of the Rules of Procedure. 6.1, Addendum to Supplementary Schedule 3, Financial Year 2020-2021.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the addendum to Supplementary Schedule 3 for the financial year 2021. It's addendum Supplementary Schedule 3 for the financial 2021. I beg to lay.
6.2.
Item 6.2, Addendum 2 to Supplementary Schedule 3, Financial Year 2020-2021.
Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, I beg to lay Addendum 2 to Supplementary Schedule 3 for financial 2021.
6.3. List of Ugandan South Sudan traders' companies that were paid and those verified but are pending payment.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay a list of Ugandan South Sudan traders' companies that were paid and those verified but are pending payment.
6.4, Tax Expenditure Report for the period July to September 2020, Financial Year 2020-2021.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the Tax Expenditure Report for the period July to September 2020 for the financial 2020-2021.
6.5, the annual performance report for financial year 2019-2020, Financial Intelligence Authority.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the annual performance report for the financial 2019-20 Financial Intelligence Authority.
6.6, the annual microeconomic and fiscal performance report, financial 2019-2020.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the annual macroeconomic and fiscal performance report for the financial 2019-2020.
6.7.
6.7, the annual budget performance report, financial 2020.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the annual budget performance report for the financial 2019-2020.
6.8, the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2020.
Minister, can you lay item 1 to 7 physically? Because you have been laying from there. You go and.
Madam Speaker, all of them are there. Maybe I can go and...
Formally, this just a formality, yes.
Madam Speaker,
you have the whole list there? All of them are there?
Madam Speaker, the clerk can confirm, but ideally all the papers will have already been given to the clerk.
Okay. Okay, the reports are sent to the Committee on Public Accounts Committee, COSASE. Yes. No. Some of them I think are for some are for the Budget Committee. The 6.1 and 6.2 are to the Budget Committee. 6.3 is the Committee on Finance. 6.4 is Committee on Finance. Financial Intelligence Authority, that's to COSASE. Fiscal Performance, that is to Finance Committee. And your Budget Performance Report to the Committee on Budget. Then I'll ask one of the ministers to lay item 6.8 on the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amendment Regulations. I don't know whether there's anyone willing to stand in for the Ministry of ICT.
Madam Speaker and colleagues, I wish to lay on table the Uganda Communications Fees and Fines Amendment Number 2 Regulations of 2020.
Members, the regulations are sent to the Committee on ICT, and as you are aware, there is a time frame for objections. Take that into account. Item 6.9. Invite Commissioner.
Item 6.9, value for money audit reports.
Commissioner of Parliament.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg that I go through the list first and then I can on table once. I wish to lay the compensation of project-affected persons under the Karuma and Isimba hydropower projects and associated transmission lines, the assessment of budget performance by the works and transport sector for the financial year 2018-2019, assess licensing and enforcement of standards in downstream petroleum operations by Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, also the implementation of Karangara Infrastructure Services Project, KISS, the implementation of national content in the oil and gas sector, the impact of the Uganda Productive Health Voucher Project implemented by the Ministry of Health, implementation of Uganda Skills Development Facility, USDF, by the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, PSFU, the regulation and promotion of safe and reliable maritime services in the water transport subsector, the effectiveness of import inspections by Uganda National Bureau of Standards in the regulation and enforcement of product standards, production and productivity of the coffee subsector, budget assessment of delivery of planned outputs by selected health sector institutions during the financial year 2018-2019. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay.
Members, those are sent to the Public Accounts Committee, Commission Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises for perusal and report back. Item 6.
610.
Huh?
Baseline.
Where? Which one? All this? No. It can't be Ministry of Works.
Baseline 610. Baseline value for money audit stock assessment reports on the Uganda Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfers Program.
No, Commissioner.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the report on Hoima District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, the Masaka Municipal Local Government for financial year 2017-2018, Mpigi District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Buyende District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Mayuge District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Ruuka District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kabongo District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kabare District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kamur District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Oboko Municipal Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Boko District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Rakai District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kumi Municipal Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kitgum Municipal Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Apak District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Lamore District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Guru District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Mitiana District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Pader District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Machi Indie Sawagawa Municipal Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Masind Municipal Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Kasese Municipal Council Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, Jinja District Local Government for the financial year 2017-2018, and Education and Health Sectors for the financial year 2017-2018. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, honourable members. The reports are sent to the Committee of Public Accounts local government for perusal and report back. Item
611, special audit report on misuse of government funds by Ruchiga District Administration.
Commissioner.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on special audit report on specific management issues at Bukori College School, Bujiri Municipal Council.
Okay, ma.
I beg to lay.
There's also 12. This one, where does it go?
Consolidated value for money audit report on selected urban infrastructure projects implemented by the Uganda Support to Municipal Infrastructure Development Program for additional 4 participating municipal councils in the financial year 2017-2018.
Right Honourable Speaker.
Okay, now this one.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the consolidated value for money and audit report on selected urban infrastructure projects implemented by the Uganda Support to Municipal Infrastructure Development Program, USMID, for the addition of 4 participating municipal councils in the financial year 2017-2018. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay.
Honourable members, the reports are sent to the Public Accounts Committee, Local Government, for perusal and report back. Item 1014.
Report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of.
Commissioner.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the Africa Institute for Strategic Animal Resource Services and Development for the financial year ended 30th June 2016, the New Vision Printing and Publishing Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2020, Deposit Protection Fund for the financial year ended 30th June 2020, the Microfinance Support Center Limited for the year ended 30th June 2019, Environment for Development Initiative, EFD Mark Center for the period 1st January 2019, 31st December 2019, Uganda Land Commission for the financial year ended 30th June 2018, the Uganda National Oil Company for the year ended 30th June 2019. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay.
Honourable members, the reports are sent to the Committee of Public Accounts Committee, Commission, State Authorities and State Enterprises for perusal and report back. Thank you very much.
Item 7, motion for adoption of the report of the Budget Committee on the Supplementary Expenditure Schedule 3 for financial year 2020-2021.
Chair, Budget Committee.
Right Honourable Speaker, thank you so much. The report is ready. Unfortunately, by the time the report was ready, I could not find all the required members to sign the report. So in effect, I have 5 signatures which qualify under the COVID rule, but do not qualify under our ordinary rules. So I do not know whether I can proceed to present the report or I wait until I get the relevant signatures. We have done, sorry?
Can we perhaps do something slightly as I cross-check? Let me cross-check the eligibility of the report.
Motion for a resolution of Parliament on the proposal by government to borrow up to $600 million from the International Monetary Fund to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020-2021.
Isn't it? report from the Committee of National Economy.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I request Right Honourable Speaker to consider, to present item 8 and 9 together, one following the other. There are two reports, but there are some areas of commonality, especially on the background. If my request is granted.
Yes, proceed.
Thank you. Right Honourable Speaker, before I present the reports, the two reports, maybe while you have permitted me, I don't know whether it is not procedurally correct for the clerk to read item 9 as well.
But you start with item 8, present, then you will go to item 9, you present, and then they'll be admitted together.
Okay. Now there are documents that I lay on table with respect to the reports of the Committee on National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow up to 4.3073 trillion through domestic borrowing, and up to US $600 million from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to finance the budget deficit for the financial year 2020-2021. So when I'm presenting the other report, I not repeat the list of documents. The documents include: 1, the report of the Committee on National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow up to US $600 million from the IMF to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020-2021. 2, a report by the Committee on National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow up to 4.3073 trillion through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit for the financial year 2020-2021. A brief to Parliament on the proposal by government to borrow up to UGX 4.3073 trillion through domestic borrowing and up to US up to $600 million from the IMF to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020-21 of 8th and 24th September 2020. His Excellency the President's approval of the project, the letter dated 18th November 2020. The letters from the Managing Director, International Monetary Fund, committing to discuss a Ugandan reform program requested by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, performance of the World Bank budget support loan for financial year 2019-2020, medium-term budget framework of 11th June 2020, supplementary schedule 1 and 2 for financial year 2020-2021. Right Honourable, those supplementary figures were presented to the House and discussed and approved. Historical information on domestic debt of 23rd October 2020, Uganda Revenue Authority performance for first quarter financial year 2020-2021 as of 27th October 2020, the letter from National Planning Authority recommending approval of the loans, and minutes of meetings held to consider the proposal by government to borrow up to UGX 4 trillion 307.3 through domestic borrowing to $600 million from the IMF to finance the budget deficit for the financial year 2020. I will lay on table these documents after I've used them to read through them. Starting with the report of the Committee on National Economy on the proposal by government to borrow up to $600 million from the IMF to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020. Right Honorable Speaker, the methodology we employed included holding meetings with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Bank of Uganda, Uganda Bankers Association, Uganda Revenue Authority, and Private Sector Foundation, and reviewed the documents of gone through. And by way of background, during the start of financial year 2019-2020, the economy was projected to grow by 6.5%, and then by 6.3% in financial year 2020-21. However, given the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic that affected both the global and regional economy, the floods and locust invasion, Uganda's economy is now reported to, the rate of growth is projected to come down to 2.9% in financial year 2019-2020. This slower growth in the economy during financial year 2019-2020 was experienced in all the sectors of the economy. All sectors came down, and of course with consequences on the performance of the budget, which led Minister of Finance presenting as a request for financing that deficit. The financing that is being requested when you look at table 2, those with the iPads, summary financing pressures and projected budget shortfall. I don't think I need to look at to go through the table, but the message is there is a huge shortfall in revenue collections, and the IMF loan is an interest-free loan of 10 years, grace period 4 years, 6 months, and repayment period 4 years and 6 months, interest rate 0%, very low and very concessional. And after considering this loan request, the committee had the following observations made. The committee noted that over the years, government has accumulated arrears worth 3.346 trillion as at the end of June 2019. During financial year 2020-2021, only 450 billion was provided to cater for domestic arrears, and an additional 223 billion has been provided for in the supplementary budget, being financed by the current borrowing. At the current rate of budget allocation of UGX 450 billion, it would take a long time, about 7 years, to clear the arrears. The committee recommends that the government of Uganda prioritizes payment of all domestic arrears by providing sufficient budget allocation in the short to medium term, and as a way of stimulating growth, the domestic arrears to productive sectors in the economy should be cleared within a period of 3 years. In addition, government should prioritize an addition of 100 billion for clearance of domestic arrears in the financial year 2020-2021 within the available resources. Transparency and accountability of COVID-19 related expenditure. The committee noted that government allocated funds for COVID-19 related expenditure through Supplementary Schedule number 3, financial year 2019-20, which was not released as the expenditure was approved towards the end of the financial year on 26th of June 2020, and the votes had their funds appropriated through Supplementary Schedule 1 for financial year 2020-2021 to enable them implement the COVID-19 related expenditure. In addition, the private sector made a number of contributions both in cash and kind towards COVID-19 related expenditures. The committee recommends that government of Uganda should ensure that COVID-19 related resources are used in a transparent and accountable manner by undertaking targeted measures to strengthen public trust. Performance of the economy and economic outlook. The committee observed that the economy had been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the growth of the economy is dismal at 2.9 in financial year 2019-2020, far from the target of 6.5% as a result of the COVID-19 containment measures to curb the spread of the virus. Huge external and fiscal financing needs have emerged. Uganda's external position has been characterized by relatively large current account deficit that has been largely funded by the surpluses in the financial account, mostly driven by government borrowing. The current account deficit means that the country is consuming more goods and services from the rest of the world than is selling to the rest of the world. The current account deficit is also a reflection of low national savings relative to investments, indicating that the country is funding her investments from savings from the rest of the world. The committee therefore recommends that in order to improve the external position of the country, government should embark on increasing productivity in the productive sectors, especially the agriculture and industrial sectors in the short to medium term, and lock constraints surrounding the production phase to boost export receipts and attract foreign direct investment. In addition, government should urgently expedite the implementation of Uganda's export promotion strategy to boost exports in the short to medium term. Sound fiscal management to ensure fiscal sustainability. The committee observed that Uganda's public debt position is sustainable in the medium and long term. Despite the increase in sovereign debt, it is still sustainable though vulnerabilities exist. Standardized stress tests find Uganda's debt could slide to an unsustainable level due to the depreciation of the shilling associated with the slow growth of exports. The stagnation in the growth of exports has posed a huge challenge for external debt sustainability. In addition, the slowdown in growth due to the COVID-19 pandemic is projected to further weaken the dynamics of debt stress indicators. In addition, the committee observed that a number of projects funded through borrowing are executed with lags in project implementation schedules. The lags are attributed to a number of reasons, not limited to observance of counterpart funding and adequate project preparation before implementation. The committee therefore recommended Uganda Revenue Authority, together with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, should explore new ways of enhancing domestic revenue collection in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to implementing the domestic revenue mobilization strategies so as to slow down the growth in debt arising from the need to borrow for budget support. Government should strengthen public investment management to bring the fiscal deficit and public debt to a downward trajectory once the crisis abates, and also revert to plans for strengthening the budgetary process. Government should opt for sustainable options to increase foreign inflows through aggressive export promotion and import substitution strategies, as well as provide a conducive environment for foreign direct investment in the country. Expenditure contract in foreign currency. The committee observed that the national budget approved in Uganda shillings, yet some spending agencies contract service providers in foreign currency, exposing them to foreign exchange risks. The committee recommends that government agencies should contract services provisions in the country approved in the national budget, irrespective of the level of imports that will be undertaken to hedge against exchange rate risks. Boosting the lending capacity of Uganda Development Bank, UDB, the committee noted that part of the proceeds from the borrowing would go towards boosting the lending capacity of UDB to allow it to provide affordable credit to private sector companies and alleviate pressures in the balance of payment by generating local employment and manufacturing capacity. However, the committee was concerned that access to funds under UDB was very bureaucratic, demotivating to a number of would-be beneficiary enterprises. The committee therefore recommends that government should further strengthen UDB's governance to strengthen its delivery of the envisaged development impact on the economy. In addition, UDB should develop systems that efficiently address the needs of the intended beneficiaries in a timely manner with minimum bureaucracy, create awareness of their services, and set up regional centers to bring services closer to the people. Engagement of IMF to extend loan maturity under the extended credit facility. The committee recommends that government through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development engages the IMF to consider reviewing the maturity period of the loan extended under the, from 10 years to 12 years to make it really more concessional. In conclusion, Right Honourable Speaker, with regard to the IMF loan, and subject to the recommendations herein, the committee recommends approval of the proposal by government to borrow up to $600 million from the International Monetary Fund to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020-2021. And I further request the Right Honourable Speaker that we proceed with the next item so that I present that domestic borrowing loan and then we discuss them concurrently. Right Honourable Speaker.
Call the next item.
Item 9, motion for resolution of Parliament to the proposal by government to borrow up to Uganda shillings 4,307.3 billion through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020-2021.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And as I stated already, the documents to be laid on table the ones we used to consider the IMF loan, are valid, were also considered, the committee considered the very same documents when assessing this government request to borrow UGX 4.3073 trillion through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit for financial year 2020. And permit me, Right Honourable Speaker, to move straight to the observations of the committee on this request to borrow domestically. The first observation was that the committee observed that the trend of domestic borrowing has been high in the recent past, from UGX 627 billion financial year 2016-17 to 1,795 billion in financial year 2017-2018 to 2,163 billion in financial year 2018-2019 and UGX 2,570 billion in financial year 2019-2020, and now UGX 3,560.3 billion in the approval budget of financial year 2020-21. The proposed borrowing from the domestic market of 4.3073 trillion from the domestic market will increase the approved domestic borrowing by 121% to UGX 7,867.7 billion. With the addition of borrowing of UGX 4.3073 trillion, the domestic borrowing will exceed 1% of GDP to 4%, way higher than desired in the third National Development Plan, whose domestic financing strategy was to limit domestic borrowing to less than 1% of GDP to prevent crowding out of the private sector. The committee further noted that expenditure on external interest payment and amortization are less than half of those spent on domestic borrowing due to the higher interest rates and shorter maturity period associated with the domestic borrowing. The committee recommends that government prioritizes financing of budget deficit through external financing that has usually longer maturity periods and lower interest rates, and with less effects on crowding out of the private sector from the credit market. 2, the committee observed that the projected resource envelope for financial year 2020-21 excludes the World Bank loan that was approved by finance. So it was approved to finance the COVID-19 related expenditure under Supplementary Schedule 3 for financial year 2019-2020. The actual loan of US $304 million, which is about 1.12408 trillion, was disbursed on 21st July 2020, implying it formed part of the resource to finance of the resource for financial year 2020-21 and reduce the projected revenue shortfall from UGX 2,507 billion to UGX 1,382.92 billion. The committee noted that the government had made budget cuts on the approved budget for financial year 2020-2021 as the result of the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, whereas some activities like travel abroad, which had been provided for, were now expected not to take effect. As such, efficiency gains worth UGX 1,421 billion were realized. This would therefore offset the approved budget from UGX 45,493.7 billion to UGX 44,072.7 billion. In light of the above, the committee is of the view that the projected revenue shortfall of UGX 2,507 billion is covered by both the World Bank loan and the budget cuts. The financing pressures to be considered should therefore be those arising from the approved supplementary expenditure for financial year 2020-2021 as the domestic debt servicing needs which jointly amount to UGX 5,487.8 billion. And there is a table 6 there which gives the detail, and I don't think I'll read it. I will just read through the narrative. The committee further noted that borrowing of UGX 4,307.3 billion from the domestic market will slow down private sector credit growth from 8.9% registered in financial year 2019-2020 to 3% in the year 2020-2021. The committee therefore recommends that the World Bank loan resources that were disbursed at the beginning of the financial year should be included in the resource envelope of the current financial year, which would eliminate the projected revenue shortfall that is a partial basis for the borrowing. In addition, government of Uganda should borrow UGX 3,258.5 billion from the domestic market, since the projected shortfall on the revised resource envelope is addressed by the World Bank resources, and the borrowing proposal would create an excess borrowing of UGX 1,048.8 billion. Furthermore, government should prioritize the borrowed resources toward expenditure on productive areas that will stimulate economic growth. Domestic areas. The committee noted that over the years, government has accumulated arrears worth UGX 3,334.6 billion as of end June 2019. During financial year 2020-21, only UGX 450 billion was provided to cater for domestic arrears. An additional UGX 223 billion has been provided for in the supplementary budget. At the current rate of budget allocation of UGX 450 billion, it will take 7.4 years to clear the current stock of domestic arrears, and yet the medium-term budget framework indicates a declining allocation in the outer years. Delayed payment to services providers hampers their growth and weakens the private sector. The committee recommends that the government of Uganda prioritizes payment of all domestic arrears by providing sufficient budgetary allocations in the short medium term and as a way of stimulating economic growth. The domestic arrears to provide to productive sectors in the economy should be cleared within a period of 3 years. In addition, government should prioritize an addition of 100 billion for clearance of domestic arrears in financial year 2020-2021 within the available resources. Transparency and accountability of COVID-19 related resources. I think I should skip that one because I already read it in the other report. And the need to review tax exemptions. The committee observed that a number of tax exemptions have been provided, and so are isolated cases that distort incentives to production and business. The tax exemptions in some cases have made imports become cheaper than the locally produced goods, A case in point being rice imports from Tanzania, where farmers are getting discouraged as imported rice associated with the tax exemption is making the rice appear expensive to Ugandans and thus discouraging investment in the same. The committee recommends that government review the exemptions with a view of boosting local production and increase tax revenues through a broadened tax base. Need to expand on the domestic revenues. The committee observed that part of the borrowing is to meet domestic debt service obligations to a tune of UGX 2,100 billion shillings. The committee was concerned about the sustainability of borrowing to meet debt obligations, given the fact that the approved budget for financial year 2020-2021 had UGX 7,486 billion approved for domestic refinancing and UGX 3,023 billion for domestic interest payments. With this approval, the total domestic servicing budget will increase at UGX 12,586 billion financial year 2020-2021. The committee recommends that government should enhance domestic revenue mobilization as a sure means of reducing the fiscal deficit and ensuring that the debt service obligations are met on time, taking into consideration the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy. To this end, tax administration should broaden the tax base to incorporate the informal sector that now accounts for the budget, the largest part of the economy, based on the GDP numbers at 55%. In addition, the tax base can be increased through measures that target organizing supply chains into a market-driven approach and cooperatives which would support GDP growth and hence widen the tax base. Right, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, the committee was of the view that subject to these recommendations, the committee approved borrowing, domestic borrowing of up to 3,258.1 billion through domestic borrowing to finance the fiscal deficit for financial year 2020-2021. Just to make it very clear, the difference between what was requested and what has been approved is the bank loan, the World Bank loan that had already been disbursed to a Minister of Finance. I beg to report and lay on table the documents I read. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and the Committee of National Economy for both the reports. Honourable members have established that they have more than the required necessary signatures for eligibility to be debated on this floor. You can have your comments, Honourable members. No, Otieno, Odonga, and Mawanda. 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Chair, Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for the work and the good report. I stand first to support the recommendations of the committee for the approval of the loan, but somewhere the committee talks about issues of transparency and accountability. And these are things that are disturbing us, Right Honourable Speaker. Towards the last financial year, Minister of Finance came here and tabled requests against some expenditures, and we approved. They didn't spend that money. They came back here at the beginning of this financial year and did ask this Parliament to reconsider, which Parliament did. But, Right Honourable Speaker, this money has never been released. and we don't know what happened to this money. So it is not clear why government keeps coming to borrow, asking for money that we approve borrowing, and in that particular case, they even had the money. We give them money. They said they were quota by time. They only needed us now to allow them reactivate the permission we had given them. We did this. Today they have no money, but even the entities have not been paid. The government has run broke. You've seen now, they are saying now government can only pay wages plus maybe money to some few votes, which is very dangerous. Why should the government pay salary to workers who are not doing anything? Why don't you just suspend all workers? They stay home. So, right now, Speaker, what is disturbing us is government keeps asking money against certain expenditures. We approve. Some of them are loans, some are grants, but the money disappears along the way. And this is something that I don't know why the committee shied away, the chair. I don't know why the chair shied away, because he wanted to talk about this issue of transparency and accountability, but for unknown reason he decided to shy away from it. But this is a pertinent issue that the Minister of Finance should address to us before we can continue approving loans, because you are making the country very heavily indebted, but we are not seeing where the money is going. The reason for which you come to us to allow you borrow, you are not performing it. You don't release money to those entities. So what's going on? Something must be.
Honorable Donga, 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. I want to partially oppose some aspects for the borrowing. But before I do that, Madam Speaker, I seek a clarification from the Minister of Finance, my good friend, Honorable Bahati, and Honorable Kasaija. Madam Speaker, through you, this government of Uganda has been giving money to Housing Finance Bank. And when we go to Housing Finance Bank, they give us interest. They charge us interest, even as MPs, just like Stanbic Bank, just like other private banks. So where is the excess profit? Where is the profit that Housing Finance Bank has been making using our money as government? So that we can see if we can plow back that money, because it looks like they get money from government and then they use it privately, then the system of plowing back. I tried to follow a committee report of Parliament 2 years ago. It is completely, Madam Speaker, not satisfactory how they deal with the profits they make. It looks like in elective years, like in the last time I followed it in the 2017-2018, they removed money from the bank and gave to political actors. I followed up this. So we want to be told, if you go to Housing Finance Bank, you find the profit, the statements on the wall on how much profits they have made. I only had it there, but I wanted to photograph to tell you how much money they have made. This will reduce how much we need to borrow, because they are using our money. That's my first concern. The second concern, Madam Speaker, elections are in January the 14th. And I appreciate the committee report, and I will support it up to about 70%. There is no way the economy can pick up between now and elections. That's a lie. There are riots in the city. The images we are sending across the world is not good. So tourism will go down. So when we are borrowing the money, let's borrow while knowing the good season will come after elections, by the grace of God. But between now and elections, I don't see the political tension reducing. Be it as may, Madam Speaker, through you, this thing of borrowing 336 billion to manufacture radios. You check item number on the last page of the schedule. Yes, of the vote. Vote number 12, vote number 13. On the second page of the supplementary.
No. We are still not yet there. Let's finish with the national economy first. We are coming to that after. We're on item 8 and 9.
Thank you. I will get back to that. But in the absence of this issue of the radio, which I'll revert to, I think it is a hard time for the country, and it would be wise that we may have to borrow to meet the shortfalls because of the political temperature. So in my opinion, it is healthy to borrow to meet the budget deficits. But I'll revert back on the issue of the radio. Thank you so much. I support the committee recommendation.
Honorable Mawanda, then Honorable Salirwa.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I also thank the committee for its report, and I support their submissions. However, with few clarifications I'm seeking from the Minister. Madam Speaker, it is true the economy is not doing very well, and a lot of interventions have been done. Madam Speaker, I would like the Minister to clarify. We gave money to UDB, over $1 trillion, an emergency fund to support the private sector, ruling out the bureaucratic processes of accessing this money. How much money per now has been disbursed to the private sector? Madam Speaker, people have been going to UDB more than, I don't know how many times. If I'm not wrong, up to now, not more than 5 people have accessed this money. Madam Speaker, was this an economic stimulus to support the private sector to revamp the economy? Secondly, Madam Speaker, money was given to Microfinance Support Center to support the SACCOs, again, to revamp the economy, mostly the small, medium enterprise businesses in Uganda. The bureaucracy to access this money is like passing through an eye of a needle. And yet, this was a special package, an emergency fund, given by government to revamp the economy and supporting its people and its businesses. We are coming here to seek for loans, which loans are granted, but when they are given out to certain agencies, the response is very, very, very slow. At the end of the day, the effect will not be there. So what will be, or what is the use of looking for these loans? I thought the loans are being sought to be able to immediately support our people. Madam Speaker, we have had, in the committee report, they have recommended that domestic areas be paid. When we are considering the last this financial budget, this year's financial budget, emphasis was being made on payment of domestic areas to enable these suppliers and contractors who have borrowed money from banks to be able to revamp their business. It is coming up here that most of these suppliers and contractors are not being paid. Mind you, Madam Speaker, these people borrow money, they pay interest. When the government is paying, does not consider paying them interest. They risk Madam Speaker, they risk their properties, borrow money, but the government does not quickly come in to pay. The committee has recommended that 100 billion be set aside to cater for the domestic areas. We are pleading with you, Right Honourable Speaker, that the minister really considers the tobacco farmers in Bunyoro from his area. I don't know how many times they have been here. They have never been paid up to date. The tea seedlings from Kigezi, from Sheng, who borrowed money from SACCOs, from banks, have never been paid. And yet we approved money to pay domestic areas. Traders in South Sudan, these are our people whom we should be supporting at this critical time. As we support this, Madam Speaker. Information.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, and thank you, colleague, for giving way. Right Honourable Speaker, when it comes to the money that we allocate for clearing most of these domestic areas, you remember last time we provided money to cater for those that have outstanding demands as far as supplying coffee seedlings is concerned. Information I wanted to give the colleague, Right Honourable Speaker. Hajat Watongola supplied coffee seedlings in 2018. She nearly cried from the office of UCDA. You saw her here on the floor lamenting. She borrowed money to supply those seedlings. She eventually died without getting that money. It's what is happening. It is the Right Honourable Speaker for the minister and the team to come here and say, give us money to go and pay the domestic arrears. But when it comes to releasing that money to the concerned creditors, Right Honourable Speaker, the hand is very, very slow and hard to pick that money. So that is the information I wanted to give.
Please conclude.
Madam Speaker, just additionally, the cooperative unions that we passed money to be paid, Madam Speaker, last week, the Secretary of the Treasury stopped the payment of these monies to the cooperatives. Teso Cooperative Union is one of them, the Bugisu Cooperative Union, East Acholi Cooperative Union. Because this is the money they owed these cooperative unions. Now they are stuck. They can't even hold their AGMs. They can't proceed with the investment. So it is really pertinent that when we pass money for domestic areas, it should be paid to those that owe government.
Honourable, please conclude.
Madam Speaker, it's my request that as government looks for money or contract debt, it should not crowd the domestic market. When they borrow from the domestic market, it is so attractive to the lenders because it is risk-free. They rush for government bonds and treasury bills and makes it very difficult for the private sector to access financing. I would request that the government looks for external sources of financing their budget and leaves the domestic credit market for the private sector. Finally, Madam Speaker, as the Honourable Cooper has said, the ministries do their work, and the Minister of Finance is supposed to be its own work. For example, this money for cooperatives that we passed here, the due diligence or the work was done by the Minister of Trade. Money was approved here. Cooperative societies were supposed to be paid. Some were paid. When it came to others, Minister of Finance raised a lot of issues, which issues were answered by the Minister of Trade. I thought the issues that had been raised were cleared by even the internal department and Minister of Finance. But it's becoming very difficult for Minister of Finance to pay out money. When they come here, we approve it, it goes through all the process, but paying it becomes a problem. So, Madam Speaker, we would want to be updated. When we pass money, we'd like to see the response of Minister of Finance in addressing the issues they come to us, which we later clear, and then they are slow in responding. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support the committee report.
Thank you. Honourable Salira, and then we'll take a vote. Okay. Salira, Yandara, Abada, then we close.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I join colleagues in thanking the committee for the report. Honourable Speaker, my attention has been drawn to the recommendation of the committee with regard to tax exemptions. Honourable Speaker, I need to seek clarification from the Minister on what informs their decisions to offer tax exemptions in areas where the country seems to have a comparative advantage. And in the report, the committee makes a recommendation, the committee makes an observation, for example, in the area of rice. Honourable Speaker, I come from a rice growing area, Bujiri district. It even has Tilda, formerly Kibimba Rice Company. The people in that area survive on growing rice. They are rice producers. It's a major economic activity in that area. Unfortunately, government has been offering tax exemptions with regard to the importation of rice, especially from Tanzania, as the committee report observes. And this raises a very serious concern. As government, as a ministry, why would you be offering tax exemptions in areas where we have local capacity, in areas where we can boost production and have a comparative advantage? I think I need some clarification on this aspect. Otherwise, I have no reservations in supporting the report of the committee.
Yandara, then we'll close with the brother.
Madam Speaker and dear colleagues, I must thank the committee for the good reports, and I do support the borrowing. However, I have some issues to the Minister of Finance. One of the issues is the issue of counterpart funding. We are pass here loans, we get money, and then finance does not provide counterpart funding, and then we start paying interest. This is something which must be stopped. Finance should come here when they are ready with counterpart funding. If it's not there, don't come here. Secondly, the absorption capacity in these ministries is very low. Madam Speaker, if we requested government to bring here tabulation showing the absorption capacity, we would be shocked. What is the problem of not absorbing this money? Are we having round pegs into square holes or what? Because this low capacity in absorption, Madam Speaker, maybe it is the people holding positions they shouldn't be holding. Can't we look into this and see that this thing works? On the domestic borrowing, it is a problem to the Ugandans who want to progress. In fact, if you're starting a business, or if you have a small business and you want to collapse, you deal with the government. Many of them have collapsed. And those who have survived, the trick is one. If the item costs 1 shilling, you put 10 shillings. But if you go with the right costings, you definitely collapse. On this issue of tax exemptions, I think we need to do some research on this tax exemption. Who gets this tax exemption? I think if somebody took 10 years and we tabulated and found out who are these people getting exemptions, you may be shocked. I would request the Minister of Finance to pick interest and get this information from URA. We know who are these getting tax exemptions. Even these traders in Kampala, some of them get tax exemptions. Why?
Honorable Barbara, it's getting late.
Madam Speaker, I want to pick up from where Honorable Biandala ended. You know, when I talk about tax exemption, you're actually exempting the big shots. Powerful people are the ones running powerful businesses. And because we are exempting them, it forces the government to come and it forces the government to borrow money for running government activities. And that's the biggest problem that we have, Madam Speaker, as we talk now. Because of this exemption here, that's the reason why we are borrowing. If we're not exempting people, some of these business people, I am sure will not be borrowing any money in Uganda completely. That's according to my simple economics and understanding. Madam Speaker, number two. Madam Speaker, number two is that when you talk about the loans and debt situation in Uganda, we need about 7-point-something years to make sure all the domestic areas will be paid. Now, given this scenario, I am worried that this loan here is going to be there for about 4 years. And now that one now increases now the domestic areas, the loans. My opinion, Madam Speaker, on this matter is that I agree with the committee, but I want to ask the ministers of finance, all of them are here. I want them to tell us, to go on record, why they are not paying the domestic areas. Those people have done business with them, and they have not paid them. And they should tell us specifically today why they are not paying. Number three, Madam Speaker, I want to say, these loans here, they are good loans if they were used properly, and in a time there will be a change. But unfortunately, for example, like if some of my colleagues have said, I want to say that the minister here should actually assure us, the House and Uganda, that when this money is approved, for them they are going to utilize it properly. Other than approving it today, then it takes about 10 years or 3 years for it for them to start using it. And that becomes a big problem, Madam Speaker. And I want the minister here to tell me why are they, let me go about the first question, why are they not paying domestic areas even when they approve the money? I thank you.
Okay, honourable members, I think that there's general agreement. Oh no, I'll go finally, okay.
Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank the ministers, thank government, and all those who produced the report. Like the rest of colleagues have said, accountability is a key. So what I was trying to say is that the transparency is equally critical. We have given money, we have given resources most times. But Honourable Speaker, for me, I'm interested in my district, Ikumi. If we are talking about the budget deficit, and now we are financing using a loan, how should I be able to see, how will I know? What are you going to do to make sure that we also feel the benefit of this loan? For instance, if you look at the health sector, Right Honourable Speaker, I have a health facility which has taken 10 years down the road. It has not been completed. And yet every day we are approving loans here. When do we feel the benefit of these several loans that we are approving? I think loans are good, but the way we utilize them is very, very important. Mr. Minister, sir, you need to travel to Kumi so that you listen to my people. You talk to them directly yourself, because when you are here, you'll not be able to get the questions that they would love to ask you. But you'd love to travel, first of all, the two of you, so that you listen to the questions. There are several. The private school teachers, for instance, are suffering badly, immensely. They don't have resources, they don't have business, they are just there, they are stuck, they are struggling. What are you going to do about this? Yes, we are talking about the laws, we are talking about the budget, we are enhancing it, but also the other question, how did we arrive at this deficit? Much as the COVID has affected the country, this money that we saved from the travels abroad, where is the money? How much did we save from travels abroad? The workshops that we decided to freeze, where is the money? I thought that should have catered for the deficit that we are talking about. So much as this COVID struck the country, Right Honourable Speaker, I expected the ministers, first of all, to make a summary of savings that we had from travels abroad, and then to the workshops and seminars, and several other issues that we didn't execute in the previous financial year, so that we are sure of the deficit and how we arrived at it. How did it come about? I think, Right Honourable Speaker, such questions need to be what? Answered. But all in all, I support acquisition of this what? This loan. But I want to remind the Minister about Liboa.
Honourable members, I put the question that the
Thank
question
you.
be put. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Put the question first that this House do approve the proposal by the government to borrow USD 600 million from the International Monetary Fund to finance the budget deficit for the financial year 2020-2021. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. I therefore also put the question that this House do approve the proposal by the government to borrow up to Uganda shillings 4,307 million through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit. Yes, we have debated it. No, please, the radio is coming. Please. I put the question that the House to approve the proposal by government to borrow up to Uganda shillings 4,307 million through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit for financial 2020-2021. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it. So, honourable members, we go back to item 7. We go back to...
Madam Chair, when the chair of the committee was presenting, that amount was reduced to 3.2 trillion, not 4.3. There was a saving, which was...
But we are reading your report.
No, in the conclusion.
You should have altered even the report.
The first page was talking about the whole proposal, but the conclusion will lessen some amount.
Okay,
so I beg that we read that amount.
Members, I put the question. Let's expand the first part of that report. And now, that this House to approve the government borrowing of Uganda shillings 3,258,500,000 through domestic borrowing to finance the budget deficit for the financial 2020-2021. Those in favour say aye, the contrary no. Let's have it. So, members, let's go back to item 7. This was the motion for adoption of the report of the Budget Committee on supplementary expenditure. I wanted to respond to the query raised by the chair of the Budget Committee. On the 2nd of April, I issued guidelines to be utilized in the COVID pandemic. In guideline number 8, I ruled that we should, at least 5 members would be able to sign a report on behalf of the others in order not to breach the COVID regulations. So in the circumstances, this report is eligible for presentation and for debate. Chair of the Budget Committee.
Right Honourable Speaker,
thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I seek procedural guidance from you. I know we are time-bound and it's not very good situation in the city. But there were pertinent issues we raised to the Minister of Finance that even if we are time-bound, how? At least you should caution them as our Speaker.
Why don't you allow the chair to present his report? Then you can comment.
No, I'm lost in the procedure because I raised an issue to the Minister.
Take your seat and wait for the report.
Thank you.
Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members, I beg to present the report of the Budget Committee on the supplementary expenditure schedule number 3 and the corresponding addendum 1 and 2 to schedule 3 for the financial year 2020-21. Madam Speaker, Since the beginning of this financial year, we have so far received 3 schedules pertaining to supplementary expenditure. These schedules are summarized in Table 1 on page 2. In Schedule 1, a request of 1.4 trillion shillings. Schedule 2, a request of 2 trillion shillings. And there was an addendum number 1 to Schedule 2 with 389 billion. Schedule 3 with 353 billion. Addendum number 1 to Schedule 3, 48 billion. And addendum number 2 to Schedule 3, 5.6 billion. Overall, to date, we have received supplementary requests amounting to 4.224 trillion shillings. Madam Speaker, supplementary schedule number 3, which is the latest that we are handling in this paper, was referred to the Budget Committee for scrutiny and reporting thereto. We have considered this report and wish to report as follows. In this report, Part 1 will present the methodology, legal framework, and preliminary observations. And Part B will present the proposed supplementary estimates under Schedule 3 for the financial year 2021, observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, in the interest of time, I beg to skip page 3. It's the usual legal framework that guides the processing of supplementaries. On page 4, I'll move straight to the preliminary committee observations. The committee observed that the supplementary expenditure schedule was laid in accordance with Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015. Number 2, the committee observes that there is no clear source of funding for most of the supplementary expenditure requests. The reason being, we looked at the report of the Committee on National Economy, and what we found was that the request for loan approval only relates to Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and debt servicing. It did not cover Schedule 3. Number 3, the committee observes that some of the expenditure requests do not pass the legal requirement under the PFM Act and the regulations of unavoidability and unforeseeable. Part B, Madam Speaker, supplementary requests that require prior parliamentary approval under Schedule number 3 and Addendum 1 and 2. Right Honourable Speaker, Schedule 3 for the financial year 2020 is over and above the 3% legal requirement, and therefore requires prior approval of Parliament in line with Section 25 of the PFM Act as amended before the money can be spent by government. Below is a listing of supplementary expenditure requests under Schedule 3 and the corresponding addenda. The list is there, and it's based on this list that we have provided justification for the proposed funding. Vote 003, Office of the Prime Minister, a request of 2 billion for the Integrated Intelligence Computer System. Government of Uganda funded the Integrated Intelligence Computer System as a research project from 2010 to 2014. The Presidential Support to Scientists Initiative provided the funding for the research, and Uganda National Council of Science and Technology hosted and supervised this project. The project was later transferred to the Office of the Prime Minister in 2015. The committee was informed that the purpose of the research was to find a computer-based solution to address a number of challenges affecting service delivery in the health sector. The committee was informed that this system and Ministry of Health are working together, deploying the system in the regional referral hospitals of Naguru, Entebbe, Masaka, Mbarara, Moroto, Mbale, Nebi, and Mitiana. The committee further noted that the project accumulated arrears totaling to 2 billion shillings because they were not being paid, and the affected employees and suppliers have sued the project in various courts of law, and to date we have 10 court cases, of which 3 have judgments delivered. In addition, His Excellency the President, since May 2017, has been issuing directives to the ministry to pay, but in vain. The committee observation A, the project is stuck in arrears amounting to 2 billion shillings that include staff salaries and supplies. And this has been the situation for many years, so the staff affected have been suffering for all those years. B, the survival of the project is in jeopardy, and as such, the deployment of the system cannot proceed unless the project is relieved from any court cases arising out of the failures to meet its obligations to staff and suppliers. The committee therefore recommends approval of this request to avoid further losses owing to the numerous court cases, which may prove to be very costly and difficult to win by the government. The sources of funding these arrears should be from the approved budget on domestic arrears that Parliament appropriated in the financial year 2020-2021. Vote 006, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 1 billion shillings for the establishment of an embassy of Uganda in Angola. Right Honourable Speaker, having considered this matter, the committee has recommended that we defer consideration of approval of this request until the source of funding is established, because the source has not been indicated, and therefore we cannot approve expenditure where the source has not been made clear. Vote 008, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, 5 billion. Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development requested for 5 billion shillings for implementing the electronic government procurement system. The committee was informed that the implementation of this EGP system commenced in July 2020 and will support government to carry out complete public procurement and disposal processes electronically. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Development highlighted the benefits which are listed there. The committee observed that the ministry knew the project would start in June 2020 and therefore should have planned and budgeted for it in the financial year 2020-2021 annual budget, since the expenditure was foreseeable, and that's what the regulation requires. In addition, no source of funds to finance this request has been provided to the committee. So it has two problems: that the expenditure was foreseeable. For a supplementary request to pass, it must be unforeseeable. Now the committee therefore declines to recommend for the approval of this expenditure. It can wait for the next budget. Vote 012, Ministry of Lands and Urban Development, 6 billion shillings. The committee was informed His Excellency the President agreed with the Archbishop of Kampala that government acquires 20 acres out of the land belonging to the Archdiocese of Kampala, but currently occupied by Nsambya Police Barracks. This is to pave way for construction of an ultra-modern convention center. The land was valued at a total of 64 billion shillings, of which 12 billion has already been paid as government commitment. The committee noted that it is against this background that the supplementary funding of 6 billion is being requested to cater for part payment to enable the church to undertake other development activities as agreed with His Excellency the President. At the time of considering this request, issues relating to the ownership of the conventional center were not ascertained, and the source of funding was also not known. The committee has therefore deferred consideration of approval of this request. In E, vote 013, Minister of Education and Sports, Uganda shilling 336.867 billion to cater for purchase of radios. Following the closure of institutions of learning on 20th March 2020 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Ministry of Education and Sports designed a preparedness and response plan to COVID-19 with a focus on overcoming challenges within the education sector, such as supporting continuity of learning and ensuring safety and protection of learners while at home. The Ministry of Education and Sports has requested for shilling 336.86 billion for purchase of 9 million radios for supply to all Uganda homesteads as one of the strategies to support long-distance learning, given that schools are closed due to COVID-19 pandemic, except for candidate classes. After interacting with the relevant ministers and technical officers, we made the following observations. The committee observed that the first phase of long-distance learning was conducted in May 2020. The committee was informed that an assessment on the effectiveness of long-distance learning was undertaken. However, the report on the assessment presented to the committee fell far short in providing adequate information on the effectiveness of the radio-based approach to learning. The report enumerated a number of challenges that detailed below. Number one, that students and parents were not given an opportunity to ask questions directly during the radio program. Number two, the time seemed not to be enough for the teacher because at the time of summarizing the lesson, the teacher was rushed to enable him conclude the lesson. Number three, some teachers make mistakes that cannot be corrected. Number four, some learners miss out due to competition between gardening and attending lessons in homes. Number five, that many community members demand for study materials instead of their children listening to radios and TVs. Number six, some teachers were reported to be too speedy when giving instructions, stroke activities, thus learners fail to write it down. And number seven, practical lessons seem to remain a challenge during lesson delivery. These were challenges enumerated from that assessment. B, the committee was informed that the full school opening roadmap could only be finalized after a 2-month assessment of the current partial opening for finalists has been undertaken. This would therefore imply that the radio-based learning should only be implemented after the assessment and the roadmap has been finalized. C, UBC, which is supposed to partner with other radio stations and ensure that the radio-based learning is implemented, is not mandated to supervise other radio stations. In addition, UBC is likely to be overwhelmed with the national campaigns and the need to broadcast in 56 languages. D, UBC is financially handicapped with debts of over 40 billion shillings, and no provision has been made by the Ministry of Education to pay for broadcasting airtime. And this puts a constraint to the initiative of learning through the radios. E, the committee observes that there are some parts of the country that do not access any local radio signals, like Karamoja, Kapchora, Sembabule, Rwengo, and others. F, There is no provision in the ministry's budget on how the radios will be maintained by the poor beneficiaries in terms of repair and accessories. In addition, there is no information on the funding required to fully operationalize the radio-based learning. Information relating to the cost of delivery of radios, payment of teachers outstanding arrears, and other related costs have not been provided to the committee. G, according to the UBOS National Household Survey Report of 2016-2017, 4.3 million households had no access to radios. Further, given that the growth of the economy and household incomes over the last 4 years arising out of government strategic interventions, households with no access to radios could have reduced further to below 2 million to date. H, according to the Ministry of Education, the radios will be procured from different sources at varying prices, ranging from 33,000 shillings to 42,000 shillings per unit. The committee is concerned that for the same type of radio, we are required to pay different prices, constituting an obvious loss of public resources and against PPDA regulations. I, according to the radio delivery schedule provided to the committee by the Ministry of Education, 2 million radios are to be delivered in December 2020, 2 million radios are to be delivered in January 2021, and 5 million radios to be locally manufactured will commence delivery at the end of February 2021. This could imply that the commencement of the radio learning program would fully commence in March 2021. However, the committee has strong reservations in the ability of the selected companies to supply the radios as per the delivery schedule. The committee visited the identified local manufacturer called Orion Transformers and Electrics and established the following. 1, the company core activities is production of electrical transformers and not radios. 2, no production line was seen for the production or assembly of radios. 3, the company requires time to recruit and train its human resource for the production of radios. And 4, under the circumstances, the committee estimates a period of over 6 months to commence production, by which time the current academic calendar would have come to an end, hence defeating the whole rationale for the immediate procurement of radios for learning. J, at 49% of debt to GDP ratio, the current debt situation in Uganda is almost hitting a debt ceiling, where more debt will not be sustainable. The provision of 336.8 billion can only escalate the debt crisis, and it would be unwise to recommend an expenditure of this nature. The ministry has not indicated the source of funds to purchase the radios. Given the foregoing observations, the committee does not recommend the approval of Uganda shillings 336.867 billion to purchase 9 million radios for the distance learning program. F, Ministry of ICT National Guidance, 3 billion shillings for support to UBC. The funds are meant to support UBC in the delivery of its mandate as a national broadcaster, with a mandate to educate, inform, guide, and entertain Ugandans. The committee noted that all the subvention funds from government to the agency for financial year 2020-21 were cut to nil, making it difficult for the corporation to effectively operate. The committee also observed that UBC, as a national public broadcaster, cannot ably compete with the private sector as it struggles to achieve full national coverage while broadcasting nationalistic content which does not necessarily generate sufficient advertising revenue. However, the committee defers approval of this request pending availability of the source of funding. G, vote 126, National Information Technology Authority, Uganda, 44.67 billion. This request is to cater for external financing by the World Bank for implementation of the Regional Communication Infrastructure Program, particularly for the outstanding and projected obligations in the missing links and last mile connectivity, as well as contract obligations under this project. The overall objective of this project is to transform public service delivery in Uganda using ICT in order to improve the lives of Ugandans. The specific objectives are to lower prices for international capacity and extend the geographic reach of broadband networks, in other words, the connectivity development objective. 2, improve the government's efficiency and transparency through e-government applications. The beneficiaries are listed there. I want to move to the recommendation. First, I should mention that this activity is funded, unlike the previous one that I've mentioned, and the committee therefore recommends approval of Uganda shillings 44.67 billion to NITA-U for the implementation of the Regional Communication Infrastructure Program. Ministry of Health, 4 billion shillings. This supplementary request is to enable reallocation, a reallocation of 4 billion shillings from the recurrent budget to the development budget of the ministry's vote, that's the Ministry of Health, to enable Kayunga Hospital expansion of the bed capacity in order to operate as a referral hospital from a general hospital, following the recent renovation of this facility. This request is budget neutral. The committee recommends approval of 4 billion to the Ministry of Health to enable the expansion of the bed capacity of this hospital. Vote 307, Cavalry University, 960 million shillings. This resource was excess appropriation in aid from students' fees and donors remitted by the university to the consolidated fund that was meant to be returned to the university for the completion of the medical school by December 2020 as a deadline for accreditation by the East African Medical Council. The committee recommends approval of this money of 960 million shillings to cover the university for the completion of the medical school. J, vote 500 to 797, and these are local governments with 4.145 billion shillings. This money is required for the public-private partnership secondary schools, for universal secondary education grant funds, and Uganda National Examination Board fees for schools partnering with government. The committee was informed that this supplementary is budget neutral and thus only requires adjustments within the votes to rectify the errors so that the budget execution for the financial year is not affected. The committee recommends approval of this amount to the local governments for the use grant funds and UNEB fees. Vote 757, Cavalry Municipality, 533 million. The committee was informed that this was additional local revenue collection earmarked by the municipality for priority capital development projects, including the completion of the ongoing construction of the council hall and the doctor's house, which is part of the upgrading of Kamukira Health Center 4 to a hospital status. The additional local revenue collections are accruing from leasing of plots located in the former housing estate of Cavalry Municipality. The above fund was remitted to the consolidated fund at the end of last financial year. The committee recommends approval of this amount of 533 million to Cavalry Municipality for the capital projects including the completion of the ongoing construction of the Council Hall and Doctor's House. Conclusion. Mr. Speaker, I request the House to adopt the report of the Budget Committee and supply figures as recommended in the annex. Those figures is presented in Table 3, wherein we are proposing the approval of recurrent expenditure amounting to 6.15 of 50.16 billion. The overall request for approval from the committee is 56.31 billion. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of the Budget Committee and the members. I'm just curious about vote 012, the proposed supplementary, which you have rejected, for the Convention Center. I'm wondering what happened to the grant by the government of India for the Mahatma Gandhi Convention Center. The silence of the government is very, very loud on this issue. Why are you looking for supplementary when there is a grant from the Indian government? And why are you fidgeting around Kampala when this thing is supposed to be in Jinja? Yes, Honorable.
Madam Speaker, I just want to associate myself 100% with the committee report and thank the chairperson of the committee for coming out with such a good report. And to buttress my feelings and the views of the people I represent, I was watching CNN today. They say the first test for the corona vaccines begin tomorrow, Friday. Yeah. So the ideas of buying radios, which will be supplied up to next year, the radios may appear at the time even corona is history. So I think it is not a wise idea. I agree fully with the committee to spend 300 billion in buying radios that will not be delivered like the first mass. I think let's first hold on. In any case, it is election time. After election, this country is not running away. We shall come back and revisit the decision in case what the committee advised is wrong. So I really want to thank the committee, and Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the question be put. Yeah.
Honourable members, yes. Okay, Honourable Bala.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And number one, I want to thank the committee for being very, very open, very, very clear on the way forward for a lot of issues. However, like following on the issue of the radios, I would actually add one point there. It is that one has actually delayed. So the proposal, I agree with the committee to say the assignment of radios should actually to wait at an appropriate time. We'll think about it at an appropriate time if corona continues. Then number two, Madam Speaker, we are talking about supplementaries, what and so on. There is a bridge in, just to give for information, there is a bridge in Ngora called Aleles Bridge, connecting Ngora and Palisa. That bridge was planned, but unfortunately it has stalled. We are wondering why. That's why, Madam Speaker, I'm saying, with this, with the report here, as a way to join with this report, that we approve this proposal instead of us wasting time, because as we talk, even time is running out. As you also know that sometimes there's also some of the problems in town here. Our proposal, Madam Speaker, we just put a question and then we approve the report.
Madam Speaker.
Minister.
Madam Speaker.
The minister wants to
Madam Speaker, just before the minister comes.
Okay, on the
Madam Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to support the committee, but also, Right Honourable Speaker, to caution through you, dealers in this town. I saw people, some manufacturers in quotes, who were despising Parliament after going and finding that they don't manufacture anything, that the sample radio had come by DHL, that they are only in transformers, and then they published statements in the media saying MPs who came on a fact-finding mission are liars. Okay? This was in papers yesterday. This is very bad. It's putting the name of the institution of Parliament into bad light, and I wanted, Right Honourable Speaker, to go on record that this has to stop. If Parliament is doing its work, allow it to do its work. You can't say that these members who went on the ground and found nothing are liars. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just taking on from where Honourable Thomas stopped. I think the Ministry of Education, if you fail to justify the reasons for buying radios, you should not go and get the dealers and people who go and write. There's a gentleman from New Vision also. He wrote an article and was attacking the Committee of Budget, that how can they pick only to go in one company and not go and check. They are all 15. There are 15 companies. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Education did present a report to the committee and said they had identified there are 4 companies that are going to supply the radios. And of the 4, 1 is a local company, the rest are foreign companies. How could they have expected the Committee of Parliament to fly to see those other 4 companies? They only went here because it was the only local company, Orion Transformers and Electronics. So, Madam Speaker, we want to caution ministry officials and the minister, don't blackmail Parliament. Don't blackmail the Committee of Parliament. The committee went and saw nothing. Nothing. And we want to thank the owner of that company. He was very honest. Madam Speaker, the gentleman who the Minister of Education, Honorable Minister seated here, denied his report, whom had submitted early, said, because we were supposed to take members there to see the factory, say, if it means me losing my job, I'd rather lose my job than taking you to an unexisted company. Because they disowned what that gentleman had told us in the committee. I happened to appear in that committee as an ex-officio member. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee, but also warn those dealers outside there, as Honorable Trump saying, to stop blackmailing Parliament. If they don't have facts, they should stop it or seek the information. Madam Speaker, for how many times shall we be deceived and duped? You know what happened to the bicycles for local government, for LOC ones?
We are still waiting for them.
Still demanding. What happened to the masks? Just mere masks. We have failed to supply them. Now you are saying radios, which need manufacturing, assembling, importing, shipping, UNBS. How can they be delivered next month, Madam Speaker? Unless they have told us that they have already awarded the contract, they have given money, the things are here. But what we saw here from the so-called local supplier, there is nothing. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee for that. But we would rather move this money, if this money was there, to the Minister of Health to deal with this issue of COVID. That's why we should move this money, even to help the schools to open, because they are failing to adhere to the SOPs, because there is no money to buy sanitizers, to buy soap, all of that. Why would we want to experiment ourselves on this? Finally, Madam Speaker, can the minister tell us, what is this convention center they are building? Is it a substitute, the one of Ginger? Is this one a separate one? And who owns this? The issue of ownership, the committee has stated. Can the minister tell us the ownership of this convention center? Is it the same as the one which was sponsored by the Indian government, or is it a different one? Because last time Honorable Kamuntu here, when he was in trade, he was saying they are building in Entebbe. So we need clarity from the government. And the ministers are here, they should be able to tell us which convention center that is. But also, reading the report, they're saying URA had a deficit. I've just been reading a document here from the new Commissioner General of URA that they made surplus. They made surplus in July because their target was 68 billion. They collected 102 billion. In August, the target was 81 billion. They collected 117 billion. In September, the target was 83.53 billion. They collected 121.2 billion from the Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. So, if this is true, if this is factual, if this is factual, if we collected surplus, maybe it's because the Honorable Minister of Finance here told us one time he was going to revise the budget. Did you revise the budget? Because you were supposed to have brought it back here. We have not seen. We are still waiting for your revised budget to take care of the COVID situation. We don't know when it's coming. When it's coming. Otherwise, we will not be asking these questions. So there was a surplus collection of 47% by Uganda Revenue Authority. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Baria, and then the Minister of Education. I'll just finish with the backbenchers, then I come to the government.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to concur with the colleagues as we support the committee report, and I wish also to support Honourable To for just passing the motion. But Right Honourable Speaker, I need to begin from the issue of the convention center. Right Honourable Speaker, we have realized the language that some of these ministries understand best is when you put a position that you will not appear again and we shall not listen to what you present unless you give us a position here. For the convention center, Right Honourable Speaker, we have dilly-dallied a lot, and eventually we shall lose it. Now I'm speaking from the selfish point of view as somebody who comes from Busoga. This was an offer that was given to Ginger for a given reason. But Right Honourable Speaker, mafias are playing around and eventually they want to steal this thing. We can't look on. I request through your office, Right Honourable Speaker, that you give a position to the ministry concerned, that they come here and give us a position once and for all. Unless they give us a position, we don't discuss whatever concerns that ministry. So I request for that. Right Honourable Speaker, on the issue of the Ministry of Education and the 336 billion to buy radios, Right Honourable Speaker, if we allow this, we are setting a precedent to some of these ministries. Education purchasing household items like radios. Tomorrow they will come to purchase saucepans for home economics students. So we must know what we are doing. And as colleagues said, they have failed to purchase simple things. We allocated money in April. Up to now, nothing has been purchased. You want us to allocate money in November towards December. I think even a situation where you take a committee to a company that is manufacturing transformers, I think, Right Honourable Speaker, if we are looking for mafias, this is a route where we should begin and trace these mafias. Somebody must be in this deal, and we need to move, really track them, because the Indian, I saw the gentleman fidgeting with the Kasmoro loudspeaker there, that this, then the other, then this, and eventually he considered that he can't. So I think, Right Honourable Speaker, this is a time now to begin tracking those mafias. Whoever brought this deal of radios must be part of the mafia gang in this government. So we need now to begin from here and trace these guys and bring them.
Minister of Education? Education, then Finance?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker and my dear colleagues, first of all, I would like to thank the Chair of the Budget Committee for the job well done. We have had several meetings with the Committee of the Budget, Parliamentary Committee on the Budget, where we submitted all the details concerning this project, Madam Speaker. However, Madam Speaker, 2 points did not come out properly. One, over 8 million young people who are supposed to be in school are still at home, redundant, and nobody knows when this lockdown will come to an end. Right, Honorable Speaker, we need it really to come up with a plan, with a program to engage these people, because these people, some of these people have already been married off, some have been, that's why, Right Honorable Speaker, some have started taking drugs, some are really idle and disorderly. So that one really needs to come out, and what we are going to do about this. Perhaps the other that came up in our meeting, which I have not appeared, is that radio teaching has been adopted in some countries like Nigeria, Thailand, Niger. But, Right Honorable Speaker, for us as a ministry, we are saying that whatever Parliament will decide, we'll move with Parliament. But, Right Honorable Speaker, the responsibility over what happens to the children when they are locked up at home should be a responsibility of all of us to carry. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Now, Honourable Minister, I don't know, these radios, were you going to give lessons from morning until evening to these children, from morning until evening, so they don't move anywhere? They listen to this radio from morning until evening.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Minister for being open and honest. He's always a honest man. And the question I'm just asking, I want him to help me to understand how the radio can help a child run away from drug addict or that type of thing. I want him, like he has stated clearly, in terms, how can a radio help a child really from getting involved on the issue of drug addiction or taking drugs. I want to be helped so that it becomes a justification for us to buy radios.
Further clarification, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm seeking clarification from the Minister because he felt so sympathetic and he felt for the children who are at home that are not going to school. Right, Honorable Speaker, a few days ago we were here and requested the government to only provide 7 billion for candidate classes as examination fee. Government has failed to pay 7 billion, but the Minister is sympathetic with those who are not candidates who need 336 billion. 336. So I'm wondering how easy it is for the ministry to be sympathetic for those who need 336 and hard for those who are already finishing that need only 7 billion shillings.
Honourable members, I also recall that last financial year, we asked government to just add 5 billion for higher education financing scheme, just 5 billion to capture more students. Government had no money, but now they have money for radios. Anyway.
Right, Honourable Speaker, as I said, we'll go with what Parliament will decide. But we had the plan, even timetable, to follow when executing these radio programs. But Right Honourable Speaker, I think much of this we have discussed with the committee. That's why I'm saying that we'll follow what this Parliament will decide.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know. These children, have you sent them books where they're going to write those things they're studying? On the members, put the question that the question we put those in favor say aye, the contrary no. And I put the question that the House adopts the report of the Budget Committee on the Supplementary Expenditure, Schedule 3, and addendum 1 and 2 to Schedule 3, Financial 2020-2021. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. I serve it. Now, Honourable members, I received a petition from citizens in Njeru municipality, Namabere village. There is a looming eviction from Namabere village, Tongoro parish in Nyenga division. Somebody is forcing people out of the land and giving them 100,000 shillings and telling them to leave immediately. As you recall, His Excellency the President put an embargo on evictions during the COVID pandemic. We are still in the COVID pandemic. I want to invite the Minister for Lands to take an interest in this matter and help the citizens of Namabere Village, Tongoro Parish, Nyenga Division, General Municipality, Ilwike District. And I would like to, whether the House is on or not, I would like to get an answer by the close of business next week. Thank you very much. Yes.
Madam Speaker, it's good the Minister of Education, Honorable Muingo, is here. Again, a complaint coming from LDC. You remember last time we raised the issue. Those who have been denied now, over 50, again, to sit and told that you must come and repeat the full year next year. I think you should pick interest in it, pick it and follow it up. There is a team that had come yesterday here to see us over it. But I thought I tried calling you, but I couldn't get you. You must pick interest in that. Yet those who had been taken for a training, for trade refresher training in Ichankwansi, when they came back, they have been allowed when they petitioned. But these other 50 have been denied. Where will they be able to get that money? So I want you to pick interest in that and help those students.
It's okay to summarize. Okay. Okay, now members, yes, Honorable Chair.
Madam Speaker, I thought we are going to move to the Committee of Supply.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We are going to the Committee of Supply. Can we work from here? We have to go there. Okay. Clerk, call the subject.
Committee of Supply.
That's on, we're on page 14. On page 14, on our members, yes, under supplementary expenditure recommended for approval under Schedule 1, the total recurrent budget, Uganda shilling 6 billion and 15 millions. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Development expenditure, Uganda shillings 50 billion and 16 millions. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. In total, the sum of Uganda shillings 56 billion and 31 millions. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Ayes have it.
Report from the Committee of Supply.
Minister.
Madam Speaker and colleagues, I move that the House do resume and the committee.
Just report on what we have decided.
David. Yeah?
The committee, the committee of the supply has approved the expenditure for financial aid.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of Supply has approved supplementary expenditure schedule number 3 for financial year 2021 with amendment.
Okay. Motion for adoption of the report.
Motion for adoption of the report from the Committee of Supply.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the report from the Committee of Supply be adopted.
Now, members, the question is that the report of the Committee of the Whole House be adopted. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Who's going to clarify? We should to them out. From 003. Okay. Honourable members, the schedule first is contained in Annex 1 from code 003 to code 796. And that's for recurrent expenditure. And the vote for development is from vote 014, 126, 307, 757. This is a total development expenditure. This is just for clarification and for record purposes. Thank you. So, honourable members, I want to thank you very much for the day's work. We have been here since morning. We invited you for the special tribute, of course, and then this work. So I'm now going to adjourn the House sine die. I know that you are busy, but I do hope that members have taken opportunity to take the tests because the facilities are there at the House before you go back to your constituencies, and to encourage you to check as often as possible because we are constantly moving and constantly working. Thank you very much. House adjourned.
Children, I know you're missing your play areas at school, but this time will come. The lockdown